What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. I will try to keep this one brief. The resources and the written version of what we'll be talking about here is in the description. I'm sharing this because I think your capacity for magic can be trained, and I want people in my sphere with a good capacity for magic. Because once you've taught yourself any degree of magic and developed your ability to trust it, if you want to call it magic or instinct or intuition, you become much more capable in weird ways. Because magic isn't a bar you build up, it's a warehouse you clean out. And what are you cleaning out? Your own bullshit. Or you at least develop the capacity to clean out your warehouse sometimes when you need it. And what you're doing is you are creating space for magic and guidance to flow in. Or another way to look at it, you are taking a paper that is covered in ink, which is you in your daily life, and you are removing the ink so something from the outside or something from deep inside can write shit on the paper and communicate with you clearly. And this is valuable because the messages you will sometimes receive, and also once you are better able to interpret them, will give you keen information you need now. A read on a person, a move to make in your career, places you should go for opportunities, places you shouldn't go to avoid disasters, without your knowing anything. It's like receiving winning lotto numbers from a message in a bottle on a beach. And again, it's not just a matter of developing your ability to receive these messages. You're also developing your ability to understand them, to interpret them, and also to trust them. Because for some reason, trusting nothing but a gut feeling makes people uncomfortable. It's not something they want to do. It's something they are trained not to do. But once you have progressed enough in your majory, interesting shit can start happening. Because another aspect of this, you don't wield magic, or you don't cast magic as such. It's a lot like the Force if, in my opinion, there were a bunch of different forces, or a bunch of different sides of the Force. You make yourself internally available to these forces. You make yourself a valuable instrument and a cooperative instrument, and then slowly, rather than you're becoming a vessel for the Force, or you're commandeering the Force for your own purposes, it's more like you synthesize with the Force, or with the universe, or with your instinct, your intuition, with your God's will, and your separate goals become each other's goals. You become a high-tier cell, so your host body does better, and when your host body does better, you do better. As above, so below. But how do you develop this capacity if it doesn't come naturally to you? I think the answer is tarot. Because I think you can train your magical capacity, and I think tarot is the way anyone can do it. All the better if you have no magical background or understanding. Because this is some wax on, wax off shit. In training yourself to read tarot better, you are becoming more of a mage generally, and tarot just so happens to be the best tool for it. In my eyes, traditional astrology would be something like calisthenics with enhancements on gear, a science monster. You can achieve some freakish results that way, but for most people, the classic picking heavy things up and putting them back down will also get you results. And will get you results naturally, independently. without needing a team of alchemists and physical scientists to achieve the same result. And no shit at astrologers. Take that as a compliment because astrology is beyond me, and I have a feeling it'll stay that way. What we want is a group of stronger than average people, or more magically awakened than average people, and for our purposes, cards are the free weights. Now, step by step, how do you do this? First, you buy a tarot deck. I'll recommend the Thoth deck, Thoth. That's the Harris Crowley deck, and I recommend that one because it's one of the classics, and while a lot of people don't like it because it can be cryptic and mean, I've also found it to be the most accurate, the most cutting where you need cutting done, and also the most honest once you learn how to work with it. Each tarot deck has its own voice. The Rider-Waite deck would be the other one I would recommend if you don't want to go with the Thoth deck. That deck has always felt more neutral to me, calmer to me, but we like passion on this channel. So I recommend the Thoth deck. But if you go with the Rider-Waite deck, you aren't going wrong. With the Thoth deck, I will say get the largest cards you can get. Now you have your deck, throw away the card definitions booklet. Trying to use scripted interpretations will give you so many bad habits. It'll defeat the purpose. It'll make your reading shit. The deck won't like you very much. The point is to develop your own understanding of and connection with your cards, which are separate from definition because you're not developing a definition here. The same card can mean hundreds of different things depending on what you're talking about. And that's the point. The next thing you do is shuffle your deck. I like spreading my deck all around, and as I'm reassembling it, reverse every other card. That's a safe way to do it. Next, you need some spreads. My spreads or my formats are all linked in the description. These are the spreads I use for my Fiverr gig, and most of these are introductory spreads I picked up from elsewhere. Some I modified for my own purposes, but I like these quite a lot and I recommend them to you. But another thing you can do if you'd like, at some point you'll need to, is look around for other spread formats. Collect the ones you like. You can experiment with making your own, but one of the things I've found in tarot, which is fascinating to me, I don't know why this is, but the way my brain works, I thought in custom spreads, why not just make them all in lines or boxes or something? Make it much easier, instead of one card up here, one card over there, one card on the left. But in my experience, the obtuse formatting of spreads is part of the reason they work. And it's not that line spreads or box spreads can't work. It's more something is missing when I try to streamline spreads I've picked up from elsewhere for some reason. Anyway, you've selected your spread, you've selected your format, you draw your cards. I like reversing every other card as I'm drawing. I also have a habit of placing my cards face down as I'm drawing, which you don't need to do, this is preference. But you draw your cards, and then you go card by card interpreting them. And I strongly recommend you record your spreads. So you record which card goes where or went where in that spread, and then you write down your interpretation as you go card by card. And in the beginning, knowing nothing, odds are good you'll want to reach for a booklet or you'll want to look up definitions anyway. Don't do that. You stare at your card until you feel something. In the beginning, it might take some time, but it will happen. You stare at it, you think about it, and whatever you feel, you go with it. Doesn't matter if it feels weird or it doesn't make sense, you go with it. If you feel it, you go with it. And you go with it enough times. It's like you're trying to figure out a loose definition for a word or a series of definitions for a word by walking around it, if that makes any sense. Eventually, each card will become something like a word or like a hieroglyph, and you won't need to sit there staring at a card for an hour to have an idea of what the card is saying to you. Or it might be trying to say to you if it's communicating in a way it hasn't communicated to you before. But in the beginning, you sit there and you stare at it until you feel something. Then you write down your interpretation. You do it with the next card, the next card, the next card. And what you're doing also, while you are interpreting, is you are thinking in terms of a narrative. What story is this spread trying to tell you? Spreads communicate using stories. Now, you have reached the end of your interpretation. Oh, another thing to do. Think of your deck like a language. You are translating a message someone has used these symbols to communicate to you. So, yes, you are interpreting, but also think of it as a translation. Because, in my experience, the cards are usually right about things. If something's wrong, it's going to be your interpretation or your translation, and you'll find that out later. But that's part of the process. So when you're looking at your first interpretation, it's probably going to look weird, and don't beat yourself up about it, because imagine trying to translate a story in a language you are still learning. This is expected. This is part of the process. But the reason writing your spreads down, recording your interpretations is important, is you can look back in 3 to 6 months and you'll have a pretty good idea of what the spread was talking about. And when you are practicing tarot like this, you are not just practicing tarot. You are practicing the process of turning off or setting aside your conscious brain and allowing these messages to rise up out of you or to beam in from outer space, wherever they're coming from. Because when you're working a spread, it's fascinating. A lot of the time you will get into a tarot rhythm, and you should always doubt. It's not like you should always doubt. You will always doubt if you're being a reasonable person. And you'll feel like what you're doing is maybe on some level tapping into your intuition or your instinct or whatever. It's more like you are reading Rorschach cards. They stop being so weird once you are used to them, and you know what you're supposed to think when this comes up, and you know how to build a narrative, and it all feels very atheistic. And for all these reasons, even if tarot isn't some mystical shit, tarot is still useful in an atheistic world. But then you'll have these moments. You will get a transmission from one of the cards that feels like it's from a different dimension. High intensity, the message doesn't match the definition of the card you're used to, or your understanding of the card, but you look at it and you know this is what it is. You know this is what it is. It's intense, and it's always weird shit when this happens. These are like your best friend died, but you have a poker face, and there's no way I could know this, but I know it moments. Freaky shit. And these are the moments that convince you might not know what is at work here, but it's something. And although you'll have these hyper intense moments, these are not necessarily the things you are gunning for all the time. And in fact, you shouldn't be gunning for most of the time. You aren't gunning for anything. You are opening yourself up and allowing these things to come to you. And once you make a habit of this, it's the lower frequency messages that maybe you don't register as coming from the outside that will guide you and give you powers, kind of. Envision it like everyone else is watching normal news, Fox or CNN or something, And you, while everyone else is watching morning news with these typical shit networks, you, in the morning, are watching the afternoon news somehow from a network that speaks in riddles, maybe likes fucking with you a little bit, dicking around, but is dead on. You're operating on a different level. You aren't in a different world. You aren't ascended to another plane. You are operating with purer information. Information which you can stop receiving if you bullshit around too much, and you will almost always feel inclined to doubt when you have it. But as you teach yourself tarot, even if you don't stick with tarot, you're cleaning off the rusted, corroded wires of your soul. So the electricity that is your intuition or your instinct or whatever God you believe in can reach you faster, clearer, less interference, and with greater ability to trust the vibe you're getting. Tarot is useful because it teaches you to do that, and it also gives it form, it gives it language, but the method or the process teaches you or gets you in sync more with your instinct. And you're more likely to listen to it, you're more likely to let it guide you, and when Jesus takes the wheel, metaphorically, once you are able to let Jesus take the wheel, you'll find yourself doing psychic and or superhuman shit on occasion. Stuff you're doing that is definitely not you doing it. And that's the crux of all this. I want my tribe to have access to these abilities, for your sake and for mine. I want my people I may potentially one day rely on, to be force sensitives. And you can train force sensitivity, and tarot is the way you do it. And some final little thoughts about tarot. When you're reading a spread, never think, well, this spread is wrong, or this card is wrong, or this is incorrect. Always assume all the cards are always right. Meaning, if you think something is wrong, then you need to ask yourself what you are misinterpreting, or what you have mistranslated. This was a spread, well, it's not on the screen, but I ran a spread in early 2025, what's going to be the next big thing for me in my career, and I got the Prince of Wands, I believe. It is a flaming dude on a chariot. I took that to mean I would find a good job somewhere it's hot, or I would get a job offer somewhere it's hot. But that didn't happen, and I was disappointed for a while. I was frustrated. And then after, because see, in the summer, my nonprofit, and this took a month or two, a couple months maybe, we moved all of our shit from one location to another, and I was the one doing most of the work, and it was painful fucking hot. And then I realized, that's what the spread was talking about. Okay, professionally, you are moving, and the sun is going to be really bright, it's going to be really hot, but you aren't moving to another place for a job. Your job is moving to another place, and you're moving with it. So if you get a card and you feel like something's wrong with it or you're misunderstanding it, ask yourself what else it could mean. Or death is a big one. If you want to do mental exercises with this, death is the one I recommend using. Because death rarely means actual death. And it's funny because, well, it's not, maybe not funny, morbid. But in my experience, death, actual death, gets communicated through every card but death. So when you draw death, odds are good it's not a person dying. You need to think, what is ending, or what was lost? It is an ending. It is a definite ending, but it's a matter of what has ended or will end. And emphasis is another thing, because one of the most important ends in a person's life could be an end they don't connect with the snowball it created. Example, you stop smoking cigarettes, or you're reading a spread, something about cigarettes comes up, you get death. You, novice reader, interpret it as lung cancer, death that way. When in reality, the death was actually after this person spread, they stop smoking, that's their death, and then they meet their lovely wife or husband because they didn't smell like cigarettes and their husband or wife didn't like cigarettes. Super, super important end, not the one you thought it was. That's something you will get a handle on the more you do this. But the key point is always assume all the cards are always right. And the principle this teaches you for developing your magical capacity or getting in touch with your instincts is your instincts are never wrong. Maybe you've misunderstood what they meant, but that raising of hairs on your arms or that ice in your spine, that is something. It is something. It is not nothing. Your job is to figure out or to key in to what it is instead of dismissing it wholesale the way you are trained to by conventional Redditor logic. And again, you don't need to get into tarot seriously. This is more of like your noob gains phase when you're lifting weights. Every man can get his noob gains, and once he has them, he's built a platform that even if he stops lifting altogether, probably won't ever be going anywhere. That's the nature of noob gains. It's an initiation. A little bit of tarot can open your third eye just enough. And for our purposes, just enough might be all you need. But if you do stick with tarot, it is a kick-ass tool to have in your pocket, and I believe anyone can do tarot. Of all the magic systems, tarot it's hard. I don't know how a person would be unable to do tarot. You'd need to be a literal void to be unable to do tarot. An actual NPC. If you can engage with Rorschach cards, then you can do tarot, and if you can do tarot, then you can train your magical capacity that will help you in every facet of your life. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.